Good morning again. Today is day 303. We are looking at the Jesus story from St. Mark's Gospel, and today we have reached the point where Jesus has finished the Last Supper and has now taken his disciples to Gethsemane, where he hopes to pray and to prepare himself for what is to come. Mark chapter 14, verses 26 to 42. When they finished singing the hymn, they went out onto the Mount of Olives. And Jesus said to them, "All of you are going to desert me. It says in the scriptures, I will strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. But then after I am raised up, I will get to Galilee before you." Peter said to him, "Even if they all run off, I'm staying." And Jesus said to him, "I'm telling you, tonight, before the cock crows twice, you will have disowned me 3 times. But Peter insisted, "Even if I have to die with you, I'm not intending to deny you." And they all said the same. And then they went to the area called Gethsemane, or the oil press. And he said to his disciples, "Sit down here whilst I pray." And he took Peter, James and John with him. And he started to get very stressed and anxious. He told them, "I'm full of deadly grief. Stay here and don't go to sleep." He walked on a bit further and fell on the ground, and as he prayed, that if possible, the hour might pass him by. And he said, "Abba, Father, for you everything is possible. Remove this cup from me. But nevertheless, don't do what I want, but what you want." And then he came back to them, but he found them asleep. He said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Weren't you able to keep awake for just 1 hour? Keep awake now and pray that you don't get tempted. You might well want to do the right thing, but your human flesh isn't that strong." Again he went a little way off and prayed in the same way as before. Then he came back again and found them asleep. Their eyes were very heavy, and they found themselves unable to make any excuses. When he came to them the 3rd time, he said to them, "Still sleeping and taking your rest, are you? That's enough now. Time's up. The Son of Man has been betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let's go. Here comes my betrayer." Peter's memory of the scene at Gethsemane on the Mount of Olives has provided Mark with a vivid account of what Jesus was feeling as he realized his time was nearly up, and the traitor Judas would now be on his way. A fictional hero going to his fate would have been depicted facing up to his fate with arrogant bravery, but Peter's memory is of a fragile human Jesus, recoiling from the horror to come. Look at the words Jesus says to the 3 he took with him. "I'm full of deadly grief. Stay here and don't go to sleep." He wants their company in his prayer, and he frankly admits to being very anxious about what will soon take place. As Martin Luther commented, nobody ever feared death as much as he did. 3 years before, Jesus had struggled with Satan in the wilderness at the beginning of his ministry. And now, at an opportune time, Satan has returned with reinforcements from, of all places, the temple of God. Jesus, in this prayer, revealed how God was going to convince at least some of us that he deeply desires to take away all our anxiety about the punishment that is due to us because of our selfish and sinful misuse of the freedom he has given to us. Jesus was to carry that weight, to drink that cup, since it was necessary. What follows today's reading is the swift arrival of Judas with a company of armed men sent by the temple clergy, the scribes, and the Jewish council. Judas identified Jesus to those accompanying him simply by walking up to him, embracing him, and with a kiss calling him Sir. Terrified, the disciples had scattered. So who saw this? It may well be that Mark himself was the eyewitness here. Perhaps we might guess that it was at Mark's family home where the Last Supper had taken place, and that Mark had overheard some of the conversation. It may be that he followed them in his nightshirt out onto the Gethsemane estate, but we can't quite be sure. But we do read this in Mark chapter 14, verses 51 and 52, that a young man followed Jesus, wearing nothing except a sheet around his body. They tried to grab him, but he left the sheet in their hands and he ran away with nothing on. With Jesus in their power, the next step was to bring him before those who had the power to condemn him. Naturally, the temple guards took Jesus to their boss, the high priest. And once again, Mark turns to Peter for this part of the story, which we shall read tomorrow. For Peter, this was to be a very personal memory. I'll see you tomorrow.